Yo, 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 Soup Squad! It's your boy Nimbo Soup again. I managed to get my soupy little hands on the new F-20 Tiger Shark that got added in the Alpha Strike update, so in case you haven't seen enough content on it yet, here we are. This thing is a premium, of course, American Rank 8 BR 12.0 jet fighter that'll run you about $75. Whether or not it's worth that price tag we'll talk about, along with how it plays, performs, how much fun it is, the usual stuff. It is top tier, and you know my opinions on top tier. That being said, my opinions on this thing might actually surprise you. Stick around to find out, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get her going. Before we even get started here, I just want to give you guys a quick disclaimer about the gameplay. I've been figuring out some recording issues recently. I've had some stuttering and some wrong settings and a bunch of fun stuff to deal with. So please excuse the bitrate being a little bit weird on this video. I mean, the footage is fine, I wouldn't upload it if it wasn't, but the bitrate on future videos will be higher and it should be more quality, so look forward to that. Anyways, let's start the commentary. So far it seems everyone is the most concerned with the $75 price tag on this thing, and rightfully so. It is the most expensive vehicle in game. You might ask, is it worth it? Well, if money is absolutely no object to you, I'll keep it simple for you. Yes, it is very fun to play, especially in down tiers, plus it does get bonus points for looking as cool as it does, at least in my opinion. If money is an object to you, watch the rest of the video and make your own informed decision based on what you need out of it. You know, do I need it to grind? Do I need it for fun? To help you do that, I'll start by talking about the plane itself, performance, armament, gameplay, all that jazz, and then I'll move into talking about how it actually applies to the meta of top tier, because we all know how different it is from even rank 6. Starting with performance, there's really not too much to talk about here. I assume you're familiar with the F5 if you're watching this video, and you've probably seen all the other videos on the F-20 by now. It's exactly what all the other people are saying about it, an upgraded F5 with a better engine. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm not really sure, the F5, the F-20, the F-16, these are basically all the same thing, based off the same airframe. Obviously, they have some upgrades between them. Point being, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to reference everything to the F5. On the performance spectrum, the F-20 fits somewhere nicely in between the F5 and the F-16. So no, you won't be out dogfighting F-16s, but it's actually pretty close. Your engine being as good as it is very nice for top tier. Your acceleration is very fast, your top speed is decent for being based off an F5, obviously not near an F-16, but still high enough for top tier for sure. Energy retention in typical F5 fashion is very good above 0.9, 0.95 Mach, something like that, but once you get below that it starts to drop off. Plus the AOA this thing can pull at low speed does not help the energy retention at all. This thing turns into a freaking paper airplane below Mach 0.9, so you want to be careful pulling hard on the elevator. Just tap it, keep your speed as high as you can, just like anything else in top tier. Being a fairly light plane with a fairly strong engine, the thrust to weight ratio is pretty insane. I think I read somewhere it doesn't fall below like 1 or 1.15 at any time throughout flight or something. I don't know, I don't really care enough to get into the specifics, but it is insane, and it lets you point your nose pretty much wherever you want to at any speed you're going. Like I said before, you just gotta be careful pulling as hard as possible on the elevator, because you will lose all of your speed in the process. That all being said, the usefulness of that performance and how it's applied to a top tier game might be a different story. We all know dogfights are pretty much impossible in top tier. You're gonna get swarmed by the entire enemy team as soon as you get even a little bit slow. And like we mentioned, this thing is good at keeping its speed once you're above like 0.9, 0.95 Mach, plus the good acceleration, the decent top speed, makes this thing pretty decent plane for just staying low to the deck, zooming around the map. Maybe you flank a little bit at the start, try to come in from the side, catch the enemies off guard, launch all your missiles off, boom boom, easy cleanup, 6 free aim, 9 L kills. Just remember too that this is top tier, and a lot of it is just up to luck how the game actually plays out. Maybe you go out on a flank and you're all alone, nobody else from your team is with you, and you run into the entire enemy team and they all just swarm you. I don't know, it's never happened to me for sure, but just using it as an example or something. Next up, I'd like to talk about the armament loadout of this thing. I would say that overall it's actually pretty decent. I am personally a fan of the AIM-9Ls, maybe you're not, I am. This thing gets 6 of them, so that's nice. It also has the option to take AIM-7Fs, but you have to sacrifice 2 AIM-9Ls per sparrow you want to take, which I personally do not find worth it. It's exactly that though, it's a personal preference thing, so do whatever you want. I do find that the AIM-7Fs, if I take them, I find myself climbing more, and if I climb more, I die to R27 ERs more, so not taking them actually helps out my gameplay a little bit. Might be different for you, just maybe something for you to consider. As far as countermeasures, it's kind of a weakness for this thing in my opinion. With standard you get like 55 flares or so, I'm not sure on the exact number right now. And with mixed you get like 23 flares, so really not the most when you gotta deal with IRCCM missiles. I do recommend you just stay low so you don't have to worry about bringing chaff, run standard flares so you have the most, and actually have a chance at flaring off AIM-9Ms and R73s. Speaking about flares, and this is just complete speculation, please don't take this at face value, but to me at least it feels like this thing is a pretty hot burning plane, meaning that it's pretty hard to flare away missiles. You really gotta drop your throttle further than 100%, drop 2, maybe 3 pops of flares, and then you'll be fine, but it's a task. You really just gotta make sure you pay attention. The guns are okay, I guess. I actually don't know if it's the exact same guns as on the F5E or the F5C or whatever, or not, but they feel pretty much exactly the same, if not then similar enough at least. They're pretty high velocity, decent ammo, decently easy to aim. You do need a little bit of time on target to guarantee the kill. The damage can be underwhelming at times, but with only a little bit of time you should be doing some severe damage, if not literal severe damage. Now it's time for everybody's favorite part, the matchmaker. Just like the F5, and honestly, pretty much every single other vehicle in the game at this point. BR compression, who's that? I have no idea. Down tiers are an absolute blast, you'll have a really fun time. And up tiers are not so much of a blast, you'll probably get skill issued. I mean, it is top tier after all. To be fair, this thing does technically have what it would take to make a great top tier plane. I mean, its armament could be better with AIM-9Ms and stuff, but that's why it's at 12.0 and not 12.7. You can zoom around the map, just don't turn, and you should be fine, but again, a lot of top tier is just up to luck, and no matter what you do, a lot of the time there's just nothing you can do to avoid getting skill issued. It's pretty annoying, so I think a lot of that just comes from my dislike for top tier in general, nothing to do with the actual plane itself. What I'm trying to say here, and having some trouble doing so, is that this plane theoretically has the tools it would need to succeed in top tier games, but it's a whole lot less fun doing so than down tier games. Down tiers are fairly brainless gameplay, and you can do a whole lot of damage exerting only a little bit of effort, and it's quite nice. I think that's enough on the matchmaker. You get the point. BR compression exists, woohoo, just like any other vehicle in the game. We'll move on to talking about whether or not this thing is worth it for you. I would say, if you really want to break it down and get technical, the dollar cost per RP or SL, whatever you grind for, is probably a little bit slightly higher than it is on the F5C. So as far as efficiency goes, the F5C is probably the moves at $60 and 10.3. Plus, that way you're not going to have to deal as much with IRCCM, R27 ERs, and all the other inevitable suffering of top tier. In layman's terms, I'm trying to tell you that the grind speed is probably similar between the F5C and the F20. I mean, the F5C is efficient up to rank 8, just like the F20, the modifiers aren't too far off. So as long as you can perform equally well in each plane, I don't think that the grinding is going to be too different. I mean, of course, I don't have the F5C, so I can't really truly compare them, but you can most likely take my word for it. Grinding aside, I think this thing is one of the cooler, if not the coolest plane in the game. I mean, it looks cool, it's a rank 8 premium, automatically gives you clout for using it, especially if you're not a level 10. None of these are true reasons to spend $75 on it. I mean, actually, that's up to you, it's not really on me. my opinion, but that being said, you can rest assured if you do buy it, knowing that that's going in your favor. And I mean, hey, maybe you do like top tier and you want to just go have some fun. Of course, you have the F-16 ADF at 12.0 with better performance, better loadout, better in pretty much every way, but you don't look as cool playing that thing as you do this thing, so I'd say buy it. If you don't care about $75, that is. If you're like the rest of us and you do care about $75 like a normal human being might, I would say use some caution if you're going to buy it. I mean, up tiers are pretty painful in this thing. Obviously, your top speed is slower than 12.7s. You can actually kind of catch them off guard sometimes using your great acceleration from low speeds, but for the most part, you're not going to be catching up to 12.7s. Your loadout is obviously worse, not having IRCCM missiles or a large amount of radar missiles. All of this on top of the fact that, at least in my opinion, top tier is not the most fun gameplay out there. It's just a lot of stuff that's completely out of your control, you know, quote-unquote skill issues. But oh baby, can those down tiers be a good time. I believe that's everything I've wanted to tell you guys about the F-20 itself, so I'm just going to start talking about the actual gameplay here. Starting this match out on a right-hand flank, it's pretty atypical. You got to be careful if you're going to head to the right, because most of the time your teammates are not going to come with you, and a lot of the time you'll run straight into the entire enemy team, so you can see how that might go badly for you. If you flank enough though, it can be really fruitful for you if you get behind the enemies and they don't see you coming. Just launch all your missiles off, boom boom boom. I highly recommend that you do flank, or at least don't full afterburner straight into the match. Let it develop a little bit, let the enemies get distracted, let your teammates take the brunt of the assault, and then you can kind of just hang on the outskirts and pick people off that aren't paying any attention. One other thing I want to mention in this clip is my missile usage. It sometimes tends to not be the best. I highly recommend that you save the 9L for people that are not even going to try to flare it. It can surprise you sometimes with its flare resistance, especially on shots that are direct rear aspect within like 1 kilometer. But it's not very reliable, so try to save it for people that aren't really paying attention to you and aren't going to try to flare it. We did a decent job at the start, coming up behind and on the side of the enemies, catching them kind of off guard with a few AIM 9Ls, got a couple of easy kills. Also that one enemy that my teammate finished off by shooting a missile right over my head. Luckily it didn't finish me off. Ayo. For some reason we have a few more enemies off towards this side of the map. I have no idea what they're doing over here, but it's fine. Some more action for me, hopefully. MiG-29's kind of screwing off towards my teammates over there, so we're going to throw this into a dogfight with the Mirage and the Su-25. Hopefully I don't get third-partied. We got that Mirage off in the distance. Don't have to worry about him, I don't think. We'll shoot a 9L at him just to kind of keep him away from here as we lower his teammates' energy states. In this sustained turn fight, I'm just kind of tapping my elevator. There's no point in pulling as hard as you can. Just bleeds all your speed. Obviously you will point your nose sooner, but I'd prefer just to keep my energy up, bleed the enemies of their energy, and once they're super low on energy, pretty much stalling out, you can just pull your nose around, hammer the elevator, and hit a very easy shot on them. Assuming the dogfight actually lasts and your teammates don't come and clean up all the kills. Or even worse, his teammates come and clean you up. Speaking of teammates, I have literal swarms of them now, cleaning up the rest of the enemies, so that's the end of that match. Moving into the next one, on Afghanistan. I like to go to the right, behind that big mountain range on this map. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what I'm talking about or not, you probably are. Looks like some of the enemies decided to do the same thing, so I'm just going to take them head on, only using the guns because there's really not too much of a point launching AIM 9Ls in a head on. I mean, most of the time the enemy's just going to pop one flare and avoid it. Unless they're not paying attention for some reason. This F-20, speaking of not paying attention, I decided to turn vertically for him. Usually that's a horrible idea, but I noticed nobody else was really gonna punish me for it, so it worked out. Got a kill on him. Got another F-20, hopefully he's not paying attention either. He was popping a couple of flares. I think from the angle that AIM 9L pulled the lead and didn't see the flares, so that worked out pretty nicely. Got a couple kills actually 3 kills to start this game, so that was cool. Now we head towards the middle of the action, where the enemies should be. German MiG-21 in front, kinda just launched a 9L and a prayer at him. I did not actually expect that missile to hit. He clearly was paying attention and gonna flare it away, but that's alright. Mission accomplished. Got him to turn a little bit, maybe bleed a little bit of speed. Unfortunately, I still missed my shot. Kind of a skill issue. One sort of problem with this thing is that being able to turn so well, it's kind of just a blackout simulator. That's another reason to be really careful about how hard you hammer down on the elevator. Launch a 9L at the F-14. Unfortunately, I think he flared it away at the very last second. That's fine. Get right behind him, launch another one. Somehow he flares that one away too. It's an F-14 and I was right behind him, but whatever, no big deal. I'm able to use my acceleration and accelerate to catch up to him, so just go for a gunshot and get a critters on him. That's alright. Turn back into him to finish off the job. Take some aim, get a hit, questionable lead, and finally get severe damage. Hey bro, do a Cobra. And that's an easy ace. Not actually, you really gotta fight for everything in this thing, but makes it fun in my opinion. We'll just finish up the video here in the hangar. For a quick little recap, the F-20 was actually fun. I was quite surprised by it. That being said, whether or not it's worth the $75 price tag is a bit of a different story. I'd say if you need to grind up to rank 8, the F-5C is as good, if not a better option. It's efficient up to rank 8, the modifiers are not too far off, it doesn't have to deal as much with the top tier BS like IRCCM, 16v16, and all the other jazz we know and love. Plus, you know, $60 versus $75. As far as how I like to play this thing, I flank in pretty much every single match. You know, at the start, take off, go off to the side, let the match develop, let the enemies get distracted, and then swoop on in, take all the kills. Easy as that, ideally. As far as notable features go, there's really not too much to talk about. It is pretty much exactly what everyone else has been saying, upgraded F5E. The engine is good, top speed is great, acceleration is great, turn rate is great at all speeds, which is pretty nice. You do hold energy very well above like 0.9, 0.95 Mach, so you want to keep it above that. If you find yourself below that, you will turn very well, but it bleeds your speed very quickly, so just be cautious. And speaking of speed, try to keep that as high as possible at all times. Just keep it straight, don't turn around for enemies, unless it's a true 1v1. You know, typical top tier stuff, I guess. The armament you get is pretty decent in my opinion. I'm a fan of the AIM 9Ls. You can carry 6 of them, or you can carry 4 of them in one AIM 7F Sparrow. I tend to just take the 6 9Ls. Plus the guns are decent, I guess. They're kind of a hit simulator, but they're pretty easy to aim, and with only a little bit of time on target, you'll usually get the kill. Some people are not fans of the 9Ls, especially for top tier with IRCCM missiles. I can kind of agree with that, but as long as you use them on people that aren't really paying too much attention or are only like 1 kilometer directly in front of you, you'll usually get the kill. And I do have to throw in here that this thing is one of my favorite looking planes as far as aesthetics go. I don't know, I think this is one of the best looking planes in game. You guys are probably going to disagree with me on that, but I just think it looks so cool. I believe that is about all I've got for you for today's video. So, if you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe with those post notifications turned on so you don't miss any of my future uploads. You all know the drill. This is Nimbo Soup. Nimbo signing out. Peace out, fellas.